You are listening to an exclusive interview on Bass Musician Magazine. The interview starts now.
Hey everybody, this is Raul for Bass Musician Magazine, and today we have the great honor and pleasure of chatting with the bassist for the Disciples of Babylon, Gui Bodi. As always, we like to get to know a little bit about the bassist. Tell us a bit about how you got started in bass.
I started off in music when I was actually really young. My sister, she started playing piano and studying really hard, like classical piano, when she was 6 years old. Mm-hmm. And she's an older sister, so, as the younger one, I was like, oh yeah, I want to learn too. But I was too young to devote the time and invest in piano like it needed to. Mm-hmm. And later on, when I was a teenager, that's when I started to listen to rock and roll. Back in Brazil, classic rock is huge. We have many radio stations devoted to classic rock. Mm-hmm. And that's when I started to listen to the likes of AC/DC, Deep Purple, Zeppelin. And that's when I was like, oh my God, this is super cool. So me and my friends, we decided to put a band together. And a couple of them already played other instruments. And then I'm like, oh, what's left? Bass. Okay, yeah, I'm going to give bass a try. And I fell in love with it. And I've been playing bass ever since.
Excellent, excellent. Well, it's very interesting, the phenomena of rock in Brazil. And I don't know if everybody knows how big it is, because
it's huge.
Brazil has such a wealth of its own native music, between the sambas and the forró and all of that kind of
Bossa
stuff.
Bossa Nova, exactly.
Oh yeah, and I was impressed because I'd got some CD from a rock band in Brazil, and they sing in English too, because it seems like English is the language of rock and roll.
Agreed. I mean, we have a few huge rock bands that sing in Portuguese as well, but I'd say, from a rocker perspective, that kind of limits your audience to Brazilians and Portuguese speakers like Mozambique, west side of Africa. But I think it does ring a bell with us when we hear it, rock tunes in English.
Absolutely.
So you have bands like Sepultura, Angra, Xamã back in the day, Soulfly, and so on and so forth. And yeah, everybody sings in English.
Absolutely. Well, and it's an evolution, because with music itself being a universal language, it's the lyric part, because you can listen to the music whether you understand it or not.
True.
But it's the lyrics and how they kind of fit and how they sound. And I know that for me, and I'm sure I'll upset a few people when I say this, but rap in Spanish sounds funny to me. It doesn't seem to fit. I think of rap with English, and when it's in Spanish, it just seems a little awkward, but I understand what they're trying to do, and it's an evolution as things are moving forward. Well, and that said, you got interested in rock and roll. How did you progress? Did you just start playing with bands?
I decided to try and do it the right way, so I was looking for a music teacher. At first. I was very lucky to have had the teacher that I found, because he asked me if I played any string instrument, and I told him that I had no prior experience. So we made a deal. I learned acoustic guitar for 3 months, and then I moved on to bass, because he wanted to give me a quick foundation on chords, how chords are formed, and a couple of shapes, so I could be more aware of what to do when I switched to bass, when it came the time to play bossa, to play jazz, even rock. So it was really cool. It was a really cool time. And I studied for 2 years with that guy. Then I went to a big school in São Paulo called Escola de Música e Tecnologia, which is a school of music and technology. And then I moved on later on to a Conservatory of Music, Souza Lima. It's a very famous one in Brazil as well. And I've had so many great teachers until the time came that I felt the need to expand. And then I moved here to LA to go to Musicians Institute.
And it's my understanding you're actually teaching there currently as well.
Yeah, I'm a teaching assistant, yes.
Yes. Very cool.
So, oh, dude, it's great. It's so funny because I do a lot of tutoring sessions as well. Mm-hmm. And I think it's the best way to really solidify your knowledge is when you teach someone.
Sure.
Because then you can tell like what your flaws are.
Exactly. Well, and a lot of times you don't realize that, how you understand something until you try to explain it to somebody else.
Yeah.
And then you go, okay, let me see how I can make this make sense to you.
Exactly.
And I have to own it myself, and then let me give you this bit.
Mm-hmm.
And then how did the Disciples of Babylon, when did you join them?
So the lead singer and the guitar player, they both started the project together. They decided, they got together, started doing some writing sessions, mm-hmm. and they decided that it was time to put a band together. And I knew the guitar player, Ramon Blanco, from MI. Okay. We both attended MI at the same time. And we actually had played in a couple different bands before. So he knew my playing, I knew his playing, and he was like, you know what, I think I have the perfect guy for this band. And then he invited me. And that's when we recorded our first EP. We still didn't have a drummer. So our producer slash drummer helped us with that. So his name is Andres Torres. Mm-hmm. And he not only produced but played drums for us, did the pre-production, post-production. The guy just literally helped us out immensely. And funny enough, he's one of the guys behind the global hit Despacito from mm-hmm. Luis Fonsi. Okay. He's his producer as well. And it's very cool to work with a guy at that level, it's just amazing.
And a lot of times, and we hear this quite a bit, that people that are in or go to a musical institution have the opportunity to connect, whether it be with other musicians or producers and people. So these things, they all kind of come back together, and True. Then you never know where they're going to go. Now, back to talking about Disciples of Babylon. Recently, you guys had a new album release, Rise and Fall of Babylon.
That's right.
Tell us a little bit about that project.
After the EP, me, Eric, the lead singer, and Ramon, we decided to audition for drummers. Of course, we needed a drummer, a steady one. Mm-hmm. And we found, after a couple tries, we found Chris Toller, and we just never stopped writing songs. And once again, we had the privilege of having Andres Torres as our producer this time only, not our drummer. And we chose the best. I know some people feel like it's a weird number of songs in the album. We only have 7 songs. We actually just decided to choose the best ones we had. And for today's day and age, I think everything is a single, right? Everybody puts out singles, not albums anymore. So 7 kind of made sense. And we recorded that album at Stag Street Studios here in LA. And it was pretty intense because as an upcoming band, our budget is very limited.
Sure. So
we put everything we had in production. And we got the best studio we could, which, by the way, Stag Street Studios is just unbelievable. The quality of the gear we were handed was like amazing, and we recorded the whole thing in 4 days.
Wow.
Yeah, like day 1 was mainly drums and bass. We knocked that out like super quick. Me and Chris, we were really well prepared for the recording sessions. And then the following days, we did all the guitars and then vocals. And like I was saying, working with a producer such as Andres is so amazing because we were still doing pre-production during recording. So he would hear things like backing vocals and stuff like that, and he'd be like, yeah, you're on. Because I do sing backing vocals for Disciples of Babylon. And it would be stuff on the fly that he would be like, "Oh, I want you to sing me this melody that I hear in my head," and it was a brilliant experience.
Very nice, very nice. And since you've mentioned gear, tell us a little bit about the gear that gives you your voice.
I've been working with Aguilar for about 3 years now. I've had Aguilar gear for longer. I fell in love with Aguilar ever since I heard it for the first time. I went to a small club here nearby Sunset Strip. I don't think that club even exists anymore. Libertines. There was a band playing, Jason Joseph and the Spectaculars. And they are kind of like a jam band, to the point that every time that I went back to check on them, they had a different lineup. But the lead singer and keyboard player, Jason. And the first bass player that I saw at that gig was Ethan Farmer.
Yeah.
And Ethan was using his Aguilar rig, and I was blown away with his tone. He was just using Fender plugged into an Optimizer, Aguilar as well, into a 112 and a Tone Hammer 500. I was floored. So I was like, I have to have that tone. That's when I started using Aguilar gear. And then later on, because of my rock bands and projects, mainly Disciples of Babylon, I was in need of a more rock and roll type of bass. And that's when I landed with Spectre basses.
Gotcha. The
ones I have right now, I have a Coda bass. It's a type of like jazz bass model. And I also have, if you give me 1 second, because this is too pretty not to show. I recently got a Legend 5.
Oh, very nice.
That is really gorgeous. So the cool thing, and it's a long scale, it comes with Aguilar Sopar pickups already, and the preamp is Aguilar as well. And it's crazy how complementary it is to my bass rig.
Nice.
I can literally tweak it and make it sound the way I want it. It's just unbelievable. The playability of this bass is amazing. I love the neck, slightly smaller than regular 5 strings. The body accommodates my belly. It's really cool.
There you go.
What else? We do use Dean Markley strings.
Okay.
At the Disciples of Babylon. I love my Blue Steel. And cables, we use Klotz. It's a German company. They're very good, very crispy sound. They have cables for every instrument that you might need: acoustic guitar, electric, bass. And they really, all this put together makes my sound.
I gotcha. Do you use much in the way of pedals?
I do like myself some pedals, yes. Funny enough, I use the very first pedal I've ever bought, besides my tuner. It was a Tube Screamer, a TS-808, made theoretically for guitar players. And the reason why I got this was because I was recording once in a studio, Bulldog Studios or Street Bulldogs or something like that. And the guy put me through one of those for recording a rock and roll tune. And I felt that was amazing. It does take away a little bit of the low end, so I have to compensate that on my amp, but I just love the tone. The Tube Screamers are awesome. Besides that, I do have an Optimizer, like I was mentioning before. The first time I saw it, I'm like, oh, I gotta have that. I have a Fuzzister from Aguilar as well. That's my fuzz tone. It's Fuzzister. It's so awesome. I love the fact that they have that blend knob, so literally you can dial in the amount of fuzz you want. I have an ODB3, the overdrive from Boss. And last but not least, I have one thing that a lot of people ask me about during our shows. I have a compressor that I use.
Okay.
It's a Strymon OB1, if I'm not mistaken. They sell those with a bass mod, so you don't lose the low ends. And not only it's an amazing optical compressor, but it comes with an extra knob for a boost. So whenever Ramon takes over for solos, and we need that extra space filled in, that's when the boost comes in. So that's my complete rig.
Very nice.
As far as pedal boards.
Very nice. And I know with the recent release of Rise and Fall of Babylon, usually people are already planning their next project. What's in the future for you guys? Planning any touring?
Yes, we're looking into that. We have a few booking agents that we're talking to, and hopefully we're going to get on the road sooner than later. But right now we're actually focusing on developing more content based on the album. So, for example, not today, but in 2 days, we're going to be shooting a music video for one of the songs. And in parallel, we're going to be shooting another music video in the following weeks for another single. And we're pretty much doing that right now. And that's kind of, like I said, we are a band on a budget. So that's very time consuming because we got to figure out the best and most smart way, clever way to spend our money.
Absolutely. I think it's interesting because with so much of the computer software and so many things, you do see some very creative, I'll say lower budget pieces. And you can't tell anymore. I mean, you don't have to show up with a whole filming crew and a whole bunch of stuff. Sometimes it can be something as simple as a GoPro on your helmet. And you...
Absolutely. You're so right, bro. We actually have... me and the drummer, we have both a little, one of those modern DSLRs cameras for, it's not a 5D or anything like that, nothing fancy.
Yeah.
But it gets the job done. And we always take him to the shootings, and we have some extra footage, like behind the scenes and whatnot, and totally DIY.
There you go. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that, and I think it makes people even a little extra more creative to see what they can do with less. Last but not least, so that we don't forget, if people want to find out what both you are up to or the band is up to, the best places to look for you, GuiBodi.com.
That's correct. That's my website. I try to keep it updated as much as I can about Disciples of Babylon and also about my other projects. You can check out the videos I have online. I even put up some charts and tabs for cover videos that I've done already on my website, so people can check that out if they want to improve their reading. And for Disciples of Babylon, you can go straight to our website, disciplesofbabylon.com. We have everything updated there because we're very on point with our band stuff.
There you go. Well, we're very excited to hear again the new release. We're looking forward to the videos, and we'll certainly want to keep track of what's going on. Make sure you keep us in the loop and let us know when there's new stuff. Folks, thank you. Muito obrigado to
De nada.
for sharing so much, time with us and taking time to chat. Folks, you've seen him here, Gui Bodi, coming to you directly on Bass Musician Magazine.
Rock on.
Thanks for bassing out with us here on BassMusicianMagazine.com.